I'm Natalie from Sette Design. Today I am going to not teach you to paint anything, but take you to see different alternative spaces. That the question is, would you live there? Could you live there? How alternative are you? Or we're going to make them alternative. They're not exactly living spaces, but maybe you could work in it, maybe could it be a studio. I want you to question, how far would you be willing to go to follow your dream? If you could have a workspace that meant, or a living workspace that meant you could follow your dream, what would that entail? What sacrifice would you make? Or how much risk, maybe financially, would you be willing to take? We are following our dreams here. I've got my dream cappuccino mug, and I'm here to encourage you to follow your creativity and your dreams. Live alternatively if you can. When I was young, I went to art school in New York, in Brooklyn, and there was it was a tough neighborhood, and there were a bunch of burnt out buildings around. I moved off campus at some point, and I always used to have this fantasy to just move in. And some of the other, crazy artists would like throw a party in one of the buildings, or, go in there and do their big canvases or something. Not much, basically they were boarded up. But I always had that fantasy, and we'll see if I actually do it. Maybe it's more romantic than when you're in the middle of it all, living without walls or without a kitchen or whatever you're missing. Let's go look at these spaces, and I'm encouraging you to dream. Okay? Dream, dream. Could you live in a big industrial loft type space without walls? Okay, this is actually a storefront. It's for sale in Calistoga. It's probably like 10 million a month total. Who knows? It's got a garden and an upstairs. But the only issue with that is sound. There's the view from behind. Metal columns. I mean, it's from the 1800s. All of Calistoga burned at one point, but because this building was brick, it did not burn. How about a tiny house? Could you turn a garden shed into a little tiny house? If you're good with living outside and eating outside often, porch life. I love this space. To me, right away, there's just such peace. I like that red too, on the door. I think it would be possible to live in a small house if you had a different space to work in, and if maybe you were close to a beach, or you could get out in nature real quick in a forest or something. Then maybe it wouldn't feel so claustrophobic and small. But you'd have to be an organized type of person, which I'm not. Sette Design forever! This is my grandmother's house when she was a child. They also had a main house, but this was a tower house in Michigan, and she had 3 other sisters, and each sister got a floor. And that's quite huge if you look at the front door, how small that is in comparison. I love that. I mean, growing up in a tower house with all your sisters. This is a space up in the mountains in Italy. And I just wanted to show it with the idea of living indoor, outdoor. It's beautiful just as it is with the pale pink walls, but it would be so fun to polish those walls up, Venetian plaster them, add a glass chandelier, and then beautiful big long farm table. I mean, this space would be very fun to work with. Way up in the mountains where there's very few people, everyone would know you. Or what about living in a beautiful old white farmhouse in the middle of nowhere? Could you live 20 minutes from any store or cafe? Maybe a half hour? This is California, Northern California. And just a white farmhouse and a red barn. And there's that other little red house. I mean, that building's huge, again, perspective. Here is a Adobe house. This is the backyard. It was actually barracks, originally built in 1841 and 1842 under General Vallejo's control of California. And it's brick, adobe, and wood beam ceiling. Look at this little lantern, perforated metal lantern. And the beautiful old hardwood floors. Those are 182 years old, those floors. Still beautiful. Could you live in a space like this? What I love about the Adobe architecture is that they always seem to have a balcony all the way along the building like that. Front and back. That's Sonoma Plaza. I love the idea of cabins in an orchard, and each cabin having a different use. You know, you can have your paint studio or your music studio or your library or guest houses. Here's a houseboat being pulled out. In Sausalito, California, they have this houseboat community where they're all floating homes and they're tied to a big post. And then there's a docks that reach out to them. Look at the clouds on the water. Follow your dream and like and subscribe. I'm here to encourage you to be creative. Oh, and look, I have this little geranium that I started from a cutting. And out on my terrace, I have a pot with a geranium with red, fuchsia pink, and orange, all in the same pot that I've stuck in there from cuttings. I love that idea of multicolors and hot colors, you know, like the orange is bright, but then the fuchsia is even brighter.